you guys are late. Where is everyone? I start with precision time. Do you know that when I'm looking at a web page, can see pixel distances? I know it sounds crazy because, like, who can see pixels? They're too tiny to even see. And I have spent the last 2 weeks with Wix, which I don't know whether that's a good or bad platform. Of course, when I start Googling for help on all of the different little modules and stuff that I'm trying to use, people start saying Wix is not. I don't know whether I'm using the best tools or not. All I know is if it's a half of a hairbreadth out of line, I get queasy. Does this mean I'm a designer now? That would be cool. I mean, I started this because, as we told you last week, we're doing a Kickstarter. And I had this fantasy that I would do a little ad with some, nice graphics on it with one of our amazing pictures that Zé Nuno Fraga has drawn for us for our illustrations. And 2 weeks later, I'm still redesigning the website. So we're going to take you behind the scenes tonight and show you what I've done. Welcome to the Mosaic Arc. And here, wait, she's here. Oh my gosh. You guys, I know you all would have shown up on time if you knew the Kilts was going to be here, because I know me talking about our website, what we're going to do there. But you can rest assured now, the Nebus didn't get her.
No, the Nebus is not defeated me yet.
The Nebus is this terrible draconic monster that only Kilts has ever seen, and it scooped her away yesterday, and I thought I was going to have to do this on my own. But how did you escape? Grammar.
Yeah, grammatical jujitsu.
You escaped from the Draconibus with grammar. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how important grammar is. If you don't have grammar, you end up finding new monsters out there in the margins. I think this explains everything that's going on in medieval manuscripts, right? That they're copied along. We were looking at a bestiary tonight in our tea time. As we're writing Act 2, we promise you that in asking you to support us to publish Act 1, we are carrying on. We're already, we've already written one stanza, and then we realized we had to re-research everything to situate ourselves in the new setting. And we were looking at a bestiary and looking at the dragon fighting the elephant, and the heading for it properly in the manuscript, which Kilts very carefully read, was De Draconibus. De Draco Nebus.
You can tell my Latin's really good, huh?
I was actually impressed that you could read the script. So,
I just didn't see the hyphen, so I thought it was two completely different words. I'm like, what's a Draconibus? She's been laughing at me for the last couple of hours.
I have not had so much fun with Latin in decades. I promise you. The discovery of a new beastie in the bestiary, entwined with the dragon, right? With there, but for grammar, I would have seen the Nebus as well, but alas, I knew it was a an ablative plural. So
I don't know what that
see,
means.
it's yet another monster.
I do now know that Nevis is not a Latin word.
It should be.
And now
it should be.
Well, we're putting it in the lexicon for sure. I now understand why everybody gets tripped up by strange translational errors in the scriptures, when they say, oh, but this says this here, and then it said this later. It's like, no, it's just because of weirdos like me that didn't see the hyphen.
Well, see, and the thing is, I am certain that I found this just beyond, I mean, I laughed for 5 minutes, I think, is that I have, as I said in my opening, spent the last 2 weeks, at least the last 2 weeks, I don't know, it seems like longer, but I think it really is only 2 weeks, reformatting everything on our website to make it look very beautiful and clean and stuff, because I started reading these books on design simply, as I said, to make a poster, in effect, right, to send out with an email to say, please support our Kickstarter and so forth. And, by the end of the reading the InDesign book, realized I needed to redesign our entire front facing platform. And you therefore, I think I've actually given myself a great treat and favor in my future scholarship, because one of the things I want to work on is how medieval Christians read the Gospels. And, among other things, that includes doing things like layouts of all the parallel passages in these arches and such. And these monks were huge on design, including inventing the typeface that becomes Times New Roman, so that we can read the newspaper, right? And definitely, I mean, you cannot write one of those manuscripts. The manuscript we're looking at, where we discovered the Nebus, is called the Aberdeen Bestiary, and it's absolutely beautiful. The illuminations are exquisite. They're gold. They're everything. It's like we would now, it's like if I've just spent 2 weeks trying to make Wix line everything up for me, consider what you had to do to lay it out on parchment, hand write it, and not go out of your lines, right? It should create a whole new level of awe that we have these manuscript books.
Yeah, it does. Basic alignment being fundamental to getting any meaning out of the text. Right. It's really underrated.
Now you will never forget really that, underrated. Right? Because the reason they broke the word was so that they'd stay in alignment on the page. And there is a little hyphen there, so they are figuring out punctuation. If those of you who do not believe in punctuation, get a grip, right? Because without alignment and punctuation, you don't know how to read the word. And the great innovation of the 8th and 9th centuries in the monasteries was, separate the words so you could tell the difference between one word and the next. Because, I mean, is Draconibus one word or two? How do you know? Well, if there's no space between the day and Draconibus, and then whatever word it was after that, you won't, you have to, ancient Romans reading script, they did everything in all capitals. They ran all the words together. There was no space between words. You had to read out loud to know what you were seeing. So one of the great innovations of the Middle Ages is silent reading. So you can tell the difference between the words without having to say them out loud. And then, right, that's 2 words there. Yeah.
I think it's kind of an interesting thing too, because we're dealing with the written versus the oral tradition with the Mosaic Ark, and talking a lot about how language is formed in the 2 different contexts, and how the medium itself is going to create the meaning. So we don't have any experience with Latin whatsoever in the Antipodes, really. The education here has been divorced from Latin, and the Greco-Roman origins of all of our civilization have been taken out. So unless you're spending time specifically and deliberately to get it, you end up approaching it in this fantastic amateur way. But then we would sort of go out on side quests constantly because we don't understand what they're actually saying. So it's just it was a funny moment of kind of having an oral tradition moment, but in printed form.
Right.
You know, if I had done that and then gone to teach somebody else, it would have just been a completely new school of interpretation of that manuscript.
Well, and that's, I mean, they say that's what happens in, you know, with medieval Latin, that, you know, the scribes don't know what they're writing. For the most part, they do tend to know what they're writing because they are training to be literate. They need Latin. So they have to learn Latin in order to write anything, because they don't have written versions of, well, anything other than Old English in the early centuries. And so, yeah, and even, you know, it's like, but they know how to spell Latin because it's at least got a literate form, a written form, whereas they don't necessarily know how to spell the vernaculars. So it takes a long time to be able to write them down at all. This is one of the reasons that we have that beautiful Carolingian script, which becomes our newspaper script over the centuries, right? Because the humanists pick it up, and it's the lowercase, you know, uppercase and lowercase, and minuscule, and so forth. And that when the typefaces are designed in the modern period to be readable, they go back to these humanist scripts, which are modeling themselves on these Carolingian scripts. And the Carolingian scribes, they're going for absolute legibility. They're going for clarity and legibility, because otherwise, yeah, you're going to end up with you won't know when the words break. You won't know what you're saying. You won't know how to. They also do things like invent accent marks so that readers who are reading them out loud know where to put the stress. Because, you know, otherwise it would, again, the oral would not make any sense. And a lot of their manuscripts are in fact marked for oral reading, but they have to be marked for oral reading so you don't make those kinds of mistakes.
Interesting. So I'm thinking now, with the way that the majority of people are communicating, which is in digital text format, we're losing all of this in terms of, all right, maybe not the fonts so much, but any kind of rule around alignment, or even how we're using the fonts. The punctuation has gone. People are mixing it with emojis, so yeah, it's just sort of like there's no tradition that we're sticking to in the internet that would allow everybody to clearly read each other. That makes it interesting on how, if everyone is adapting to this environment into using English,
right,
there's going to be a lot of Nebuses running
There's
around.
lots of Nebuses. Well, even like a decade ago, I think it was a decade ago, I read a book on the way texting was creating abbreviations and so forth, and that's another feature of medieval Latin, famously, that it's written with lots of, not only just hyphens to say where the word break is, but you if you did not know the hyphens, would even miss whole syllables, because sometimes, like particularly ending syllables like there'll be an M and then just a line over it, and you'll know that that's mum, right? So that you have the rest of the word. And the ampersand that we have as a you know symbol, it was, you know, designed as an abbreviation for and you just write that in the manuscript. So texting, I mean, it's interesting, the fluidity of text and the emojis and the abbreviations and all of that. That's actually, I mean, McLuhan was right even before the internet was around, saying in this digital age, we're entering into a sort of manuscript like situation where, well, okay, so the thing that's driving me nuts with setting the website up is you put the text in, it's in a kind of typographical archaism to like set everything in nice boxes, and you want them all to align and such like that. But hopefully the program can translate that into, oh, it's on your desktop, oh, it's on your mobile phone, oh, it's, you know, your iPad vertical, oh, it's your iPad, you know, horizontal. And, you know, some of my headache is I'll get it all beautifully laid out on the desktop format, and the mobile one will be completely chaotic and have, you know, realigned everything and moved elements around, and I, you know, have to start over effectively in the second setting. And that kind of fluidity of layout, I mean, what, it's like a typesetter's nightmare, right? Because how do you make sure that things are aligned the way you want them to be meaningful when all you have to do is rotate your iPad and it all changes? I've gone nuts by now.
Beginning to understand what's wrong with the culture at the moment.
It won't stay stable. And I'm not even,
There's no alignment.
I'm not leaving it to, I would go completely mad. I'm truly not a web designer. I'm just trying to look good, right? By testing it across different browsers or something like that. I mean, oh my goodness. Hopefully the platform I'm using, you know, its little apps and systems and such are capable of dealing with that. But I don't know.
We're gonna have to find out.
No, I don't want to find out. I got it all nicely formatted on my iPad and my Apple. It looked beautiful. And then I went and looked at my phone and it all rearranged itself. And then I was like, no, there's an extra space.
She's been doing some kind of magic in the background that is too powerful. We don't really understand what's going on. We're just getting constant updates about the Wix page.
I'm like, look, and they all go back. Oh, it's beautiful, and I'm like, yeah, it better be.
Every 2 hours, something else happens to this website.
I mean, I complain, but you really have no idea what. So, Bugbear, good evening. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Welcome. Silent Draco. If I hear presentation once more, I may bite. Yes, exactly. So, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the point of the problem of English pronunciation with no match whatsoever with the spelling, which, you know, in our poetry training, we're obviously also the number of debates we've had over how many syllables fire has. If you're in the South, it has 5. I was just reading one of Tony Esolin's book of poetry, and he says it has 1, right? So is it 1, 2, 3? I don't know. Fire. Really, in the South, you can make it have 5, and I'm not sure even I can achieve that. Fire. It sounds to me like it has 2. Fire. How can you say it with only 1?
Fire.
Like
it has to be very posh. Fire.
Well, he's Italian. I mean, Esolin, he did all that Dante translating because he knows Italian, right? So is it English with Italian? Yes.
Possibly. We're adding syllables constantly.
Fire. Silent Draco is not very silent right now. Far. Yes, and he says not just spelling, but arbitrary changes to syllable stress. Yes, and the thing is, in our work in the poem, I mean, that one, when, you know, learning the meter, the first thing we had to really drill out of ourselves was arbitrarily changing the stress to make it like crunch it into the meter, right? It's like we can say it that way, right? It's like, no.
No, we can't.
You cannot. And the number of times we've been working on this kind of thing for 3 years now together, right? And we've got this core team of the 4 dragons. We had another one, but he's gone off and is doing something else right now. We hope he comes back again. If you're watching, please return. It made it the kind of discipline that it's taken us to humble ourselves to stress, to, you know, pronunciation, to actual number of syllables, to regional dialects, to vocabulary, you know, and now getting to this point where we want to publish the book and figure out how to lay it out beautifully so that it goes with the pictures and everything. And you realize that art is this constant constraint for the sake of beauty, which hopefully then flows so that you don't even notice that it's there. Right? How much have you noticed? Okay, so can we show? Maybe I want to show off the website. Have we talked long enough so that I can stop pretending that this episode is entirely about me showing off how much work I've done? Here, let's go to the website. Here we are. We are. Oh, there it is. Isn't it beautiful? It's on the homepage. You're not looking at your phone yet.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you probably should so that you know what I'm showing them. Although I'm showing them on the desktop version, so it, you know, may or may not look the same. Oh my gosh. Tell me all of the beautiful things you can
Let's see what
you
it
can
looks like
see
on the
now.
mobile,
Yeah.
shall
Oh
we?
gosh, no.
Dun, dun,
And then
dun.
realizing that the horror of this for me is I'll work at my desk, I'll get it all laid out, it's all be beautiful, everything will be nicely aligned, and then I'll take a break and go down in the garden and hang out with the dog, and I'll have to look on my phone, and then I see nothing but spaces out of line and this and that, and then I'm like, no, I was gonna have a nice little moment with my tea and my dog, and now I'm gotta go fix that.
I can't see any nebuses yet.
Right.
So
No
that's a good
nebuses.
sign. There are no nebuses. I can see the hyphens, and it's clear.
Well, that's
fantastic.
Yes, and I've actually learned in my design book there's different levels of hyphen, right? There's M dash, N dash, and hyphen, and the hyphen should be that between sub and creative, as opposed to an N dash, which is you use it for something different. With an okay, I mean, I've kind of known about these things because I've had to proofread in my own books, but bless you, designers at Columbia University Press. You have done magnificently, exquisitely beautiful work on my books. And I did appreciate it, but now I really appreciate it.
I'm down to Are You Ready to Fly into the Rainbow with the Pigeons and Rave? So the landing page is magnificent on the phone. It looks really good. And we have an incredible menu down the bottom because there are all of these new pages that you've put in since you went into the design portal of hell.
Well, okay, she's actually scrolled down. All I'm showing them right now is the opening sigil, right? So if you could go back up to the top and tell them the beauty that you see simply in the banner, which Hand Drawn Bear redrew for us, because now we're no longer our old name. We are now expanded in our media. Yeah,
we've gone multimedia now. Like just to give you more headaches, really.
Well, happily Hand Drawn Bear did the banner for me, so I didn't have to do that.
Oh, she did a cute little dragon on the stack of books, but we're no longer just doing books. So Dragon Common Room now is poetry, live streams, and art. Because all of the Drakes have started to, I don't know what we'd call it. We're wandering around. We're playing with different mediums. We're trying to incorporate different mediums into our sub-creation, which is a reference to Rachel's work on Unauthorized and what she's been talking about in regards to Tolkien and explaining the incarnational reality of mankind's being made in the image of a creator and therefore being a creator ourselves. So we want to sub-create within God's creation. And the idea is that we are not limiting ourselves to one medium. We want to do a McLuhan, play with them all, because every medium is going to change the message. It's going to change it's a different frame for what we're trying to express. And then this beautiful sigil, which I really want on a t-shirt, actually, is so metal. It looks like a heavy metal album cover from a French band that I like, but it's not. It's the sigil.
Well, we're not going to tell them that yet. We have it.
Oh, I can't tell them.
No, but I mean, it's the sigil, right? But it should suggest, sort of, as you've already said, the dynamic process that we are inviting people to engage in. And I think you and I somehow were talking about, now I don't remember where the phrase came from now, but we have a tagline, right? Sub-creative archaism for the electric mosaic, or dun dun dun, making the old new. And that I do remember I was talking to you, but I don't remember quite how it came to me, but just saying this is our project. We are taking the archaic and transforming it so that it participates in this electric mosaic, which needs to be both the electric of the 19th and 20th centuries, the modern, but the mosaic is our internet, digital, incorporation of the electric, so that all of it is transformative. And fundamentally, it's simply making the old new, which in my head was also about the way we are as Christians, which is the New Testament makes the old new. It's the transformation of the mysteries into the new covenant. So as Christians participating in this process, as you said.
Old Jerusalem, New Jerusalem.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And also that the church renews the nations, and it renews empires also, like it did when Rome fell, and then the Christian world blooms from all of the the chaos and madness of a fallen Rome. So yeah, we're recycling. It's a kind of alchemical recycling process.
Yes.
So to speak. But we should not be limited to different mediums. And I think that this is my favorite thing about Dragon Common Room, is that when people are asking me, what are you doing at the moment? It's very difficult to explain it, because there is no short way of describing this project. Just in having the website connecting your work to artistic production, I think is quite shocking to a lot of people, because they're not even thinking that this is possible. I mean, the link between academia and art has not been made for so long in a kind of normal Christian,
not in a Christian way. It is
context.
It's made in other contexts, in the sense that, say, gallery artists are tied into a particular critical network, and academia actually participates in that a lot, right? But it's not
in the Christian realm. Yeah. So we're doing it, and it's very exciting. But it's very it's difficult to describe.
Well, it is difficult to describe.
We're not really a gallery as such.
I needed, so I would say we're just in advertising mode, because we do need, to let people know what we're working on. And another thing that we're doing, so I'd say I added to the homepage an events page, which I will go to now. And this is going to be a page where I put, well, right now it's me, but I mean, Kilts. There's a page to show where Kilts has shown up on the internet too, and Mel does, her videos as well. So we have, and we're multiply out there, and there are links to all of this too. But right now, these events are some of mine, and the one showing now is a event that Patrick Coffin is doing on his website about Hope is Fuel, Catholic on Purpose. And now I forgot why I was telling you that. Out there. Oh, right. That Patrick, at the end of his videos, he says these are all pre-recorded, and so I've done mine with him already, and I did really well, because he's a really great interviewer. So watch them, right? You have to subscribe and participate. But there's like 40 plus people participating. It includes some of our people, like Milo has done a video. And E. Michael Jones is there. He and Patrick are good friends. There's a lot of other people who you may or may not know. Patrick is really well connected, has lots and lots of different threads and conversation out there in the Catholic world. But he has a catchphrase. That was what I was getting to. It's like, be a saint. What else is there? And I realized, Owen has a catchphrase. I'm not sure Vox has a catchphrase. We needed a catchphrase, right? And I'm not making the old new. That's still not quite the catchphrase we're working at, but we're like getting closer to being able to frame for people what it is we've been up to, because otherwise it's like, well, what do you do? Well, we write poetry, it's we do need some way to tell people how we are crafting our work, but it is in all the arts, as you say. It's like sub-creation through music, which we had to like outsource because no, I was thinking of the heart music, but your music is on our website too. So we have music, we have the poetry, we have drawings, we have videos, One day we'll put on a play, who knows? So that we are, in my mind, it's always been working towards all of the arts that go into the liturgy, which is all of them, right? Metalworking and singing and architecture. It's like all of the arts focused on praise of God, and that we're trying to participate in that renewal of the world through art. But we still haven't, have I framed that yet correctly in a catchphrase? No, we haven't. We're getting there.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer and closer.
Okay, so you can subscribe to the Hope. Well, you have to sign up for the Hope is Fuel. I'm also going to be at BasedCon again, and some of you know BasedCon, especially in Social Galacticus. Hans Shantz Ethers first invited me there, and I keep going back because they're great guys there that do wonderful little stories and books. And we're going to be at BasedCon again. It's a lovely sort of house party workshop for artists, and a lot of the things that I've learned in putting together the website and the Kickstarter and our designing and book publishing, I learned from these guys at BasedCon. So shout out to the BasedCon guys, because they're both craftsmen and craftsmen and women and storytellers. It's been really good.
I think this is where it's really important, because in terms of what people have been doing for a long time, I mean, I'm speaking from the Australian experience too, but the idea of science and art have been divorced from each other. So people are learning things in theory and not developing craftsmanship on the side of it. Going back into that kind of quadrivium way of explaining, okay, you've got arithmetic and then you translate that into music, where we've got geometry and then it's translated into art, visual arts and other things. So we really want to have this cultural resurrection for the development of knowledge that isn't purely theoretical, but also that the craftsmen that are making things that we use, the tools and machines and instruments of our civilization, are properly rooted in ancient Christian thinking, because the machines are making us, we're making the machines, and there's this kind of feedback loop that we're engaged in with the products of our own hands. So we are involving ourselves in that circuit somehow, and making sure that the science and the art are not separate anymore, and also making sure that art doesn't just devolve into advertising, which it has.
Right. Yeah, there are two things: that the arts devolved into simply advertising, and that it's lost its connection with the structures and design. And I'm glad you brought, it's like the geometry that's I whatever our sigil is, which we have sort of behind the scenes to show you, it's evoking that sense of ordered beauty, right? It's the cosmos. It's literally the cosmos. It actually is literally the cosmos. It's a planetarium image. But it's that the get to astronomy, which is the height of mathematics, and then it's pure beauty, which is, it's also music because of the music of the spheres, and that we are I like that Ethers invited me to BasedCon, to just be in those conversations. But it is fun because they're talking about sci-fi as well as fantasy, and Ethers is very interested in this twinning of story and design. He's got a Kickstarter on his own right now. You got to support that one too. Yeah. It's a courtroom drama. It's a little different from ours. Yes. Okay. So, all right. So I'm back on the homepage, and you scrolled down. Let's see what we find when we scroll down. Oh, look, us. It's the Mosaic Ark. Here we are. A mystical exploration of the electrical mosaic with Rachel Fulton Brown and Kiltz Calfan. You guys just know that it's there on the homepage, and showing you the places that we stream. And we've also, thanks to Mel and being pushed onto saying, yes, we need podcast, all of these are also posted through our RSS site into 6 different of the major podcast carriers, so we can get there. And there's an episode guide, which I will not click on at the moment, but lists all of our videos on our homepage, which you can find both on YouTube and on Unauthorized. Okay, so here's the other. It's like I've been doing all the alignment and the font choices. The font should be regularized now, so you don't get woozy looking at them. But it's also the art of the cross reference, right? and realize it's like if I send you to this page, there should be a link that takes you to that place that I am anticipating you are going to want to go. Right. And I hope I've anticipated all of these cross references and links that if you go from here, you're going to want to find that. And you go from here, you're going to find that. And it's like its own little web, you recognize, because I can't rely on people simply reading the table of contents. I realized what I was both indexing and making a bibliography for all the work we've been doing for the last several years, because you do need to do that to guide people through the journey that you want them to take.
Yeah, the random clicking has to be anticipated. I mean, you did a really good job. I was really excited to be able to show everybody how much went into just researching for the current project.
Right.
Because we've just started to develop the book list, or the like the study guide for Draco Alchemicus, and it's a very cool thing, because a lot of people ask you, what should I read? What should I read? You've got millions of book lists floating around, but having something that was specific to the art that we're doing, because we really have gone into some very old places to pull lost parts of our like the lost parts of this culture that we're inhabiting, that people don't really know where they're going. It's kind of like, okay, I'll explain it like this. So if modernity is like if Rachel hadn't have designed the webpage, there's no cross references that I can think of that help get you through this as a kind of navigational tool. This was my experience of Western civilization, which is why I had to leave it, because it was like, this web page is a mess. I don't know why this is here. I don't know why you're here. I don't know why I'm here. What is the language I'm speaking right now? So many Nebuses are running around. No idea what Latin is. I mean, please, I need to get off the web page. It's horrible. So we're basically doing this in this project. It's like the disalignment of everything becomes realigned, but in order to understand that, we have to go back and see how the world we live in now was developed, and it comes with all of these different things, like political philosophies, okay, ideologies, yes, but fundamentally it emerges from artists. It emerges from an artistic generation of imagination, which is Rachel's work. And this is why it's so important for our project to have this as a kind of platform for everyone to step onto. We're not just advertising books now on dragoncommonroom.com. The idea is to bring everybody into an understanding of what the Drakes have been doing for the last 3 years, which is realigning ourselves, and also realigning our language, and also realigning our mythological understanding of Western civilization together through all of these works that we're doing. So
chiropractic, it's cultural chiropractic.
Yeah, it is.
The skeleton of history needs realignment.
Yeah. It's like with probably a spinal tap in there as well, to get out some things that we really don't need anymore. So that's the reading list, and the importance of of setting up the web page to explain our archaeology. our
you can see she made me do it. No,
and I don't even remember. That's the funny
no,
thing.
I think so I realized, you know, that our friend Jonathan Peugeot has a new website. And I say our friend because I've been on his on his videos. He asked me back like way at the beginning, right? He was one of the very first people to ask me to do a video with him. And he's good friends with Jordan Peterson. And I was good friends with Milo, and he wanted to, you know, like, and we were the sidekicks, right? he does symbology for Jordan, I do symbology for Milo, and he had me on his symbolic world, and there's that episode is out there on his YouTube of I think what he called it, like Milo and Mary, or I don't know. There were you know, various layers of it. And anyway, he's just done a beautiful reboot of his website, and I happened to catch a live stream of his where he was talking through how they came up with the symbolism that went into the new design. So there's some dragons are out there in the world right now, and doves. We're kind of happy. We think we're gonna like sail together eventually, right? Anyway, so I was looking at I caught a live stream where he was talking to the woman who helped with the actual graphic design, she's worked on like so many like amazing projects for one day we're gonna meet Johnny Depp. We're working on that one. But she probably has, because one of the projects she worked on was the Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Yeah, so I want to meet her, right? Because she got to do some of the cool sets and such. Anyway, I was, you know, noodling around in his site, and he put up reading lists, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have reading lists, but as Kiltz is saying, mine were scattered everywhere, right? And we should take you to the reading lists.
Your reading lists needed a dove
My
cut.
reading list, yes, my reading list needed a dove cut.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to make people woozy, but
that good guano was all over the internet. It needed to be collected in one spot.
My reading list needed a dove cut, and I'm showing you now how to find them. Story time. This is the bar across the top has both the parent pages and the sub pages. And please, you can click on the parent pages, and they will get you there. But the sub pages, they're also cross-referenced, so you get back if you've only clicked on the whatever. I hope I've cross-referenced it all. Anyway, story time, parent page, study guides. Here we go, study guides, right? And the thing is, I think I'm glad all my doves are collected and so forth, because everybody on Social Galactic is always asking me for more reading. Guess what, guys? There's more reading. And bless your hearts, you always say, what one book should I read? And I'm like, the Bible? I mean, what one book you should read? Reading is a training. It's an exercise. It's a life. It's like being Vox, right? It's like Vox sits there with his wall of books behind him. On the study guide, you have a picture of some of my books. They've actually expanded since I took that photograph a few years ago. So yeah, that's not all of my books. And it's books both that it's my dissertation on one end and my 2 monographs on the other, although we've done a French translation of my dissertation with updated introduction and appendices and some more bibliography and such like that. So if you read French, my dissertation is now available in French. I've also published over the last few years a number of other articles. So the rest of the books are books in which my work appears. I'm sure you now want to know where to find all of those. What I like about
let me brag for you. She was quoted by like Anne Rice. Okay, this woman is goth royalty. I'm never gonna stop saying it, but she is.
I really was, RFP, but not in the vampire books.
Royalty. Doesn't matter. Anne Rice gave her props, so you'll have to check out her study guide.
Yeah, I told that story before, that I was feeling sorry for myself because, okay, so Vox on a recent live stream, Vox was talking about, I don't know what. Oh, I know, I said hi, Vox. Oh, and he was talking about who of us is unauthorized, right? And who gets the most viewers, and you guys should be watching us, Kiltz and me, because we have good content. And Razor Fist, he gets a lot of viewers, and Owen gets a lot of viewers, and Vox gets a lot of viewers, and I'm in the chat going, in Vox's chat going, but watch me. but in Unauthorized, I'm in Social Galactic, I'm Fencing Bear, and so people in the chat were going, who's she? Well, that is unfortunately one of my problems. I'm like Aragorn or Gandalf, right? I have many names depending on the situation that I found myself in. And so, there's the many, golly, I've done it again. I was feeling sorry for myself back in the day when I was saying, who watches me, who reads me? I'm looking at my Amazon rankings, and if you're an author, at some point you will have decided to go figure out who cited you, right? And I'm disconsolately scrolling through Amazon, like, has anybody noticed my work? And I found out that Anne Rice had referenced my first book, From Judgment to Passion, in her book on her Jesus autobiography, right? Her first person Jesus narrative. And I'm like, well, I can't really be upset anymore, can I? Darn it. Blowing my pity party there.
Nah, you made it to Anne Rice Talks Egypt. I think that's pretty much like
well, and it was funny because I don't think I was looking, I was feeling sorry for myself because people like Anne Rice get loads of readers, right? And those of us who actually write the stuff, right? The deep, detailed, my goodness, you guys have no idea how many books I've read. Probably Vox has probably read more, but whatever. We've read a lot of books. So when you ask us which book should I read, we're just going to stare at you. That's like, which meal should I eat? All of them? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner daily? I mean, it's like, well, maybe you should fast or, do something else for a little bit. But in medieval metaphors for reading, it's eating, it's rumination, right? You chew over the words. That's what it's like for me. You just eat the books daily. And so I was feeling sorry for myself because Anne Rice gets a lot of readers, and I was saying, I read the books, and and then finding out she had I assumed read some of my book and therefore referenced me precisely because in her book, in the Out of Egypt, she is imagining Christ's first person experience, and that is exactly what I do in my first book, From Judgment to Passion, by way of these commentaries on the Song of Songs that the monks write, imagining Christ's first person conversation with his mother, Mary, who's the bridegroom in the song. So yeah, so she read my book. So you guys should too, because Anne Rice did. And buy more of my books so that I can, change my Amazon ranking briefly.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just like very happily and unashamedly gold digging as we're streaming. So yes, buy her books. Up the ranking. They're both available in paperback. These are shown in hardcover, but they actually are available in paper. And if you read French in my dissertation too. But what I like about this is it is actually, the books that I've appeared in do give you a range of the kinds of things that I care about, right? So Mary and the Art of Prayer, From Judgment to Passion. European Transformations, the essay in that book is on the Trinity. Yes, it's on the Trinity. I actually have thought about that deeply, and there's footnotes. Studies on Medieval Empathies, which was a Festschrift for a beloved former colleague of Chicago, although he left and somebody else came and then I came. So he's like, I'm like his granddaughter in department terms. But that the paper in that book is on prayer, right? And Anselm's praying to the saints and why we need all the saints, and why would you write more prayers? So my empathy, praying with the saints with Anselm is in that book. Rome and Religion in the Medieval World. I'm blanking on what's in that book. What's in that one? I've written a lot of articles, you realize. I can't remember. I'll have to go back to that. The Handbook of Christian Mysticism, I have an essay in there on prayer. From Knowledge to Beatitude, that one has an essay on Hildegard of Bingen and her theology, also Trinitarian. The Cambridge History of Christianity has a absolutely critical essay on Mary.
which was the seed, in fact, for the book that I wrote on Mary and the Art of Prayer, showing the way in which medieval Christians pray to Mary. You will appreciate that I finished that article the day after my father died. And yes, I did. I'm that butch and horrible and disciplined that I was weeping as I wrote about what it meant to pray for intercession, because my father had just died. You're going to read that one now, right?
Appropriate.
I can't believe. So I had not gone to see my dad. He'd gone to the hospital. He'd had a stroke. You know, all of you people, be there when your parents die, because you don't get a second chance. That's it, right? Dad died. And I thought I was going to see him in a week, but I was finishing this article. So, you know, he was in the hospital and I was talking to him on the phone saying, I'm going to go, Dad. No, bad lesson. I should have showed up. Yeah, you learn real stuff if you make mistakes like being a writer. History in the Comic Mode is a festering from my own teacher, Caroline Walker Bynum. And I talk there about the way she trained us to get inside the text and pay attention to their images. And if you want to understand a different perspective, listen to the text that you're reading. It's like everything I do is you know, in homage to her education of really looking at the metaphors and symbols. I mean, I was doing that already, which is why I wanted to study with her, but it's still the most brilliant of my colleagues at that. Studies of Medieval Renaissance History is a paper on counting and prayer and the way in which numbers come into prayer. My dad heard me give that talk on campus at Rice University, where we were both alumni, and I'd been invited down to give it. He died the next year. Your shelf is not just books, it's your life, right? Played through. Yeah. The Speculum is our Medieval Academy journal. I'm still waiting for the Medieval Academy to apologize to me for a retweet. But my paper in this volume is on Anselm again and how to make better prayers, right? What prayers are like. And Medieval Studies here is the first article I ever published, which was on how the Song of Songs was used as a narrative for the Feast of the Assumption. If you didn't get all of that, happily, there's a study guide. The first one, these are all linked now. And they're all in their little dovecots, right? I hadn't thought of that, right? This is one of the features of the website that I wrestled with most, because Wix has these repeating things that don't map perfectly onto their mobile version. But anyway, they look cute. All of these are linked to more reading lists, right? And RFB's academic homepage links to all of my publications. The ones that I've been able to put on academia.edu are there for you in PDFs. Links to all of the syllabi for my courses. I have designed and taught an embarrassing number of courses at the University of Chicago, like 1 or 2 new a year. Nobody does this, really. Nobody does this. I do. So what do I do professionally? I make book lists, and there's all of the ones there for my courses. You can get them on cities, on animals, on monasteries, on war, on knights and samurai. The undergraduate ones are more sort of culture and hopefully a little more introductory, medieval England and such. The graduate ones are more focused on things like sacrament, liturgy, the Psalms, biblical exegesis, a lot, right? I literally don't remember all the courses I've designed. They're on the homepage, and along with some other things like tips for writers and little buildings, because I like building with Anchorstein. I can show you here. I'll click on it and then we'll come back. Does it work here? Oh no, it doesn't. Maybe I need to refresh. Oh dear. Interact. Okay, so apparently this doesn't click out. It just stays on this page. So you guys will have to click out yourself. Okay. Did I pump myself up enough there? Was that okay?
No, I think it's good. It's good. This is what I wanted. This is why I said put your stuff on the website.
As far as I was concerned, it was
She's
all,
a
I mean, it's linked on
machine.
all my social media and stuff. Guys who should have been going and looking at it already. But I do recognize this is an interesting feature of the internet. Although it's all out there, nobody can find
Yes.
it. Except for
Yeah.
my Wikipedia page, for goodness sake, which is not accurate. As Tucker Carlson said on his recent Twitter thing, it's like it may be factual, but it's not contextually true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that medium problem again.
Yeah.
You're only getting snippets, very highly curated snippets of facts that are amalgamated on those kinds of platforms. No context whatsoever.
Well, and the frame
then-
is all wrong. I mean, it's like there's the one article that was in the New York Times. Okay, so it was started on the front page, but that was a big deal about medieval studies, and it was thanks to that article that I got. Well, Vox invited me on unauthorized, but I think also because it was clear that it was publicly sufficiently known in the medieval studies community for the particular controversy it was in. But it's like literally most of that has nothing to do with my daily life. Right, my daily life is making book lists for students to learn medieval history. It's not fighting with people on the internet about politics.
Narrative problem.
Yeah.
There goes the rolling wheels of fan fiction.
Yeah.
the narrative that gets created, and then suddenly you're transformed from a as you've just elaborated, terrifyingly amazing scholar into this pest of an internet troll, and ignoring that all of the work that you've done has informed the opinions and informed the reasons why you've engaged in these conversations in the first place. Having anybody insult you for using your platform in the way that you've done dismisses the work that you've had to do to get the platform in the first place. And then
I'm gonna cry.
I mean, I don't know.
No, exactly. It's like, oh, you have this platform, and I'm like, do you know what it took to get tenure here? It was that first book that Anne Rice read.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
goth royalty.
I didn't get it because, I don't know what they imagine. And like then you abuse your platform. And I did write about that. So we've got some more super chats. Kel Bear, very cool site.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. And Werebear, cool site. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. And hopefully, visit it, dig around in it. We're not going to, because of the way we talk, we're not going to get to all the goodies in it tonight. But that it was Kiltz telling me it's like when I saw that Jonathan had put a reading list on his site, and we sort of went, oh yeah, why don't we have a reading list on our site? And then I was like, oh my gosh, well, I have these other, to bring them all together to show the frame that we've been working in our poetry, and that I've been working from in saying, look, we're writing for Christians. This is what it means, like in all of these different layers. And obviously I made 9 little tiles for this particular page. As I said, I've designed like 30 classes. There's book list after book list after book list on my homepage. And if you look at my books, right, everybody, passes out with like, how many pages of bibliography do you have? Oh, like 50 in tiny type. I do take very, very seriously looking for all of the connections in the webs, and that I like it, right? Obviously, I enjoy doing it because putting together a book list is a kind of art, right? It's like, how do you find all of the connections and stories and associations, and these belong together as a narrative. Lists are gorgeous. I love lists.
Mosaic artist of the historical narrative. It's great.
Thank you.
It's really cool. Yeah. So when people are saying, why are you saying this? Why are you being mean? Don't use your platform like this. I don't know. Maybe someone who prepares 50 pages of bibliographies probably knows what she's talking about.
Or I'm going to try to go find out if I hear something that I haven't considered before. Yeah. Yeah, that's like I end up keep writing new courses and new book lists because I keep thinking, wait, there's another piece, right? And that you know, hopefully, I mean, one of the things that we've done is make a puzzle out of our Aurora Borealis finale page, and you know, realizing that we're all, what is it like to study history? Well, you start with one little piece and you hope you find another piece that maybe is part of the same picture, and you find another. It's like all of these mosaic pieces. Mosaic is a very good metaphor for my experience intellectually. You maybe you make a little piece of it here that's really beautiful, and then you make another piece of it over here, and then, oh my gosh, they go together, right? And it's that joy of figuring out, and then, oh wait, I've not been looking at it from the right perspective. I need to put it in a different frame. It belongs over here. Why isn't everybody, you know, just delighted at this? Wait a minute, I could look at this from another perspective, and the whole story shifts. And people get mad because they're like, well, that's not the way I was taught history. And I'm, well, either the particular version of it or that process. And I'm like, it's a process, it's a joy, it's a craft, it's a beautiful art.
Well, we're not they're not in art. This is the thing, like the idea of being an artist is foreign to a lot of people, and having that ability to play around with things and just being playful. I mean, it's like being childlike, because all children are natural born artists, and they're always playing, and they're always discovering something. And this is the element of the culture which gets really aggressive when you find a new little a new tile for the historical narrative that you're looking at, because it's disruptive. Children don't mind disruption. Children are quite happy to have a disruption because it's a new thing, and it's novel, and it's Anubis.
It's Anubis.
It's Anubis. And adults are boring and like advertising, and like the comfort of knowing that the brand is going to stay the brand, and the product is going to stay the product, and the way that we're doing things is going to stay the way that we're doing things. So I don't know, it's like art versus advertising, people not really seeing the difference between the two of them. And then, you know, how we're making a historical narrative as a way of advertising our own greatness or someone else's greatness. Right. And, you know, it's like, are you willing to pop that bubble and actually see truth, goodness, and beauty, or not, you know? So
that I like that yes, that people think of history as simply advertising. I mean, that's been the feature in my professional field for a long time now. It's like mainly identity studies, one way or the other, and that's branding. So that's advertising, right? And which we're trying to do now. We're trying to brand ourselves as, you know, whatever we are, poetry, live streams, and art. But that sense of, you know, you've sullied my brand, you've challenged the narrative that makes us the greatest. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's because I wasn't working with those terms in the first place. I was working with, you know, examples of good behavior and bad behavior, and, you know, the problem of what's truth. And, you know, I taught several classes on warfare. I've taught my warfare class several times, and I've taught the course on Knights and Samurai, so comparative military history question. I teach, you know, the questions of the French Revolution and World War II regularly in my Year of Civ class. You have to think about all of these things. I think about history as a problem of human motivation. How do people give battle orations and encourage men to go murder each other? I've thought about that in detail and you know, explored it with the students whom I teach. And so, you know, when I get in trouble for talking about what happened in the 1930s, yeah, that's because I'm trying to figure out why it happened. And in history, the major thing of why is why people did it, right? Not like why the earthquake happened or why, you know, well, actually, sometimes climate change suggests that, you know, maybe it's all people's fault in the first place, but that you're trying you're trying to figure out why people behave the way they do. And that means looking at everything from lots of different perspectives. It's soul studies. You have to study human souls.
Well, this is the thing. You're not a behaviorist in the sense that you're not Skinnerian.
Mm.
You're not looking at or like Pavlovian cause and effect of behavior, you know, stimulus response, stimulus response. There is that element there. But fundamentally, you are Catholic. You're looking at human behavior from the perspective of a Catholic, of a Christian, of an apostolic Christian, which is probably why people find what you're doing so uncomfortable, because you're integrating the spiritual in the human narrative, and that is not acceptable thing to do in most of our daily life. We're inhabiting a media environment which is constantly analyzing things with cause and effect, and yet leaving out the spiritual, which is why Tucker got, you know, he got what he got for saying, we're, you know, seemingly in a spiritual war, try praying.
Right.
We like to keep the borders between the religious and the spiritual away from the economic, the human economy, but they can't be divorced from each other in our way of thinking. So the analysis has to be integrated with the spiritual analysis, or it's lacking proper apostolic concept of history, you know, with the telos, with the logos, and having a designer. It's just it's a foreign language to people that are not thinking in this way, and you do. So of course it's going to upset everybody. The calamity of history, you know, has a grand artist behind it, you know, trying to restore this degraded universe that's fallen away from him. It's a magnificent thing to think about. It's also very terrifying.
I always think about 18 things when you're talking. Okay, so this does, no, we're dealing in our art with the integration of all of these. We've talked about the integration of the grammar and the mathematics. Now we're talking about the integration of the spiritual with the historical, and
yes.
So I, you know, we put all these, so we say we just talk about my academic homepage, right? The other things that I decided to put in I love the image of a dovecot. So there are all these little doves, right? One of them is my blog, which I started Finseeing Bear at Prayer, which is why I'm Finseeing Bear unauthorized, or on Social Galactic. And also my YouTube channel where we post these videos is Finseeing Bear at Prayer, because this was meant to be my, how do I do the spiritual exploration in the public context, training as a fencer, but from a, you know, spiritual problem of spiritual discipline, right? So the Finseeing Bear at Prayer was meant to be the spiritual discipline in the martial practice and integrating those. And then on the blog, that's where I started writing about Milo. So I brought him into this symbol studies that I was doing. It's like, what did I see him doing in his talks all those years ago? And I wrote about that for like 3 years, and then we published that as a book, the Milo Chronicles, or Milo Chronicles. That from Finseeing Bear, that has then branched off to be the place where I posted the original things that we were doing for Dragon Common Room. And I have a couple of I put some of the links from the blog here, and then some on the next page we'll show you. But Dragon's Keep, which is here on this page, is a reading list that I originally put together for the poetry work, but I think fits here because it's actually like tools for the practice of the Christian imagination. I have a basic toolkit, gemstones, which are examples of Christian poetry, keys, which are mystical treatises, flowers, actually keys are exegesis, flowers are the mystical treatises, and guides to the Christian imagination are some of the scholarship that I have found most nourishing. And so that page, the Dragon's Keep page, it's poetry and art, but it's more the Christian worldview through poetry and art. And all of that, to me, all of that belonged on the blog originally, because Finseeing Bear was training in the spiritual warfare, then saw Milo doing that as well, and literally nobody in the world except me sees him clearly. I'll just say that, right? I see him better than everybody else. And I saw all of the way he works with symbol, the way he works performance. He's actually an incredibly good graphic designer. Brilliant crap. I was like, if I can get the website aligned correctly and choose the fonts okay, maybe I'll be okay in his. No, I won't. He'll never see me able to do any.
He'll find the Nebuses.
He'll still find the Nebuses. Anyway, so I could see him doing all of that kind of, beauty and art and symbolism, and I talked about that on the blog. And then this is all. I think it's all one long story, right? From my scholarship through my blog to now Dragon's Keep and our dragon practice and the poetry. To me, it fits because it's this integrated, as you were just saying, this integrated understanding of creation in praise of God.
Which is medieval.
Yes.
So it's appropriate. Yeah. So, well, I'm thinking of how we're integrating all of these different things as we're going along. I'm going to explain the guano thing because I think it's funny. The dovecotes. So everybody was like, she's obsessed with pigeons. Why? Then I got teased for my pigeon obsession, but they were so valuable that they had to be kept in these dovecotes. As you explained to me, they were also eaten. I was heartbroken because I can't believe anyone would eat pigeon, but they did, and they still do. You couldn't keep them unless you had a special permission from the authority of the country, the king of the country. And
they're royal birds.
The pigeon...
We've talked about this before. The pigeons infesting the cities. They're homeless. Build them some dovecotes.
Yeah. Which is like us. I mean, people that think in a kind of medieval way don't really have we don't have a dovecote to live in the West. They've been completely destroyed. So, pigeons are these beautiful little majestic messengers. They're messengers. They carry letters and everything, but their poo is really valuable for two things, which is why I kept saying it was a collection of your stuff in the dovecote on the website, but it's like all the guano, which means fucking say it, the good shit, because it's got the capacity to be a fertilizer. Or a substance which is used to manufacture gunpowder. So we have
So it's both, yes, it's both fertile and explosive. Of course it is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like any other technology. It's like all of human technology. We have these raw materials that we're able to tap into, and like, what are we willing to do with them? What are we deciding to do with them? It's like are we growing or blowing things up? So this is the kind of running theme that I wanted everyone to be able to see all of your resources in one place, and to see how it's helped us, and how the Drakes are using it to create the art that we're making. I mean, the complexity that's going into Zé Nuno Fraga's drawings alone, just from having him lingering with us as we're wrestling with each stanza, it is a huge labor just to bring one of these things forward. There's so much that goes into one stanza of this project, and he's with us the entire time in the background, getting notes, reading the writing, getting the backstory, getting the back resources that we're sending him, like as Hand-Drawn Bear was during the production of Aurora Borealis. Right. She was with us the entire time. We were making a manuscript with the artist, not just as this, we've got an illustrator later that's going to illustrate the book. She was a fundamental part of the writing process. And it's the same thing with Zé now. This is something that I don't think a lot of people are doing. It's very unfamiliar, but not only are we allowing the artists to draw as we're writing, we're also involving them in this rumination of the content that we're going through. So without all of the things that you've done and all of the resources that you're giving us and all of the things we're sharing as we're reading, researching, talking together constantly, it wouldn't be integrated. And I have to say it now while we're talking about the website, because for a lot of people it's like, well, we'll make a website and we'll advertise what we're doing, we're going to sell some merch, there's a nice icon there, it'll, it's thematic, so it'll just pass. What we're doing actually is completely integrating everything all at once. It is like the internet. It's like a medieval internet within the greater internet itself. And it's just so magnificent to be a part of it. Like, really, it's absolutely wonderful. Like, for pigeons to have been flying around homeless in the West and to find this
here's a dovecote. It's magnificent. The thing is, I did not. I did not consult you at all on this. I was just like, playing around with Wix and what kind of setup and stuff. Yeah. And I found these little boxes that I could put things in. I think I finally studied the website a little bit, the Wix site, and figured out what they had. And now I realize I did it, right? I made little dovecotes for all of my reading lists, and that's what they needed. So we have the Medieval History Unauthorized version. A lot of you know on Unauthorized already know that website because it was linked to the videos, but it's got its own set of reading lists that I made specifically so that people who wanted some background in medieval history could go there. I got involved in doing the next set of videos, the Forge of Tolkien ones, so I obviously have not told you everything I know about medieval history, but now you know where my homepage is for the academic stuff. And then there's a behind the scenes, which we're going to go there next because that's the page where we're now going to start showing you some of the stuff that we're working from specifically for Draco Alchemicus. But everything that's in my head, you're starting to get an idea of the way we work. Everything that's in my head and everything that's in Kiltz's head and Casey's head and Mel's head and Zay's head is potential for coming together and igniting, right? And the number of times we've been, I think we've said this before, but it's a glorious thing. I have no idea where the story's coming from. I mean, I had that experience with Aurora Borealis. I'm very conscious of having to outline the plot and, design the characters and talk through everything. And I know because I have actually published what it takes to, keep the reader on track and where we can go and how to, I still don't know where the stories are coming from. It's a fascinating process of in tea time in our work together suggests things that I'm absolutely convinced no one of us could figure out ourselves. I won't say I've never quite had this experience. I do have this experience in class when I set something up for the students and we're in conversation and things come up that I truly have never anticipated and I know that I've set it up and therefore they can come up. So that's important. The framing is there. But when teachers say we learn from our students, we really do, because you're hoping to create a space. You're hoping to create a garden where new things can grow that you never expected to come out. And so it's all from me in the background sense, and none of it's from me in the sense of where it's coming from. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of background. I'm bringing a lot of background to this exercise, and now it's all collected.
Just being humble.
It's collected here. So the bottom three in the Dovecote are I have been playing with this, making the internet a place for sharing of conversation for a while now, and it's not just my blog. But I've made blogs for a number of my courses. There's one that's missing here with the animals one, because I thought it was not quite as part of this story, but maybe it is with some of the stuff we did today with dragons. Medieval Christian mythology is good if you are interested in like the big symbol system that medieval Christians thought in. And it's curious that there's not really one book out there that will show you where it comes from. It's this whole lived world of liturgy and art, music, and in medieval Christian mythology, I try to at least like show you a glimpse of how to think about it, to look for pieces. The problem is that in modern Christianity, all of that stuff has been considered irrelevant to the doctrine. And therefore, if mainly what you know about Christianity is modern doctrinal teaching, most of this will seem pretty strange, which is why I do what I do in other contexts. The Tolkien Medieval and Modern is the campus version of my teaching on Tolkien. Vox keeps telling me I should write a book about Tolkien, and he's probably right. Yeah. But I realize for me, Tolkien is something I teach. It's not something I write. And it needs to be alive for me in those terms. And so I'm resistant to making a book about it, because it's the thing that keeps happening and is renewed each time I teach the course. I've now taught it. I list how many times I've taught it. 2005, it's every 3 years, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23. And the students, the blog goes for 4 of those years, and you can see how the students are transforming it even as I teach pretty much the same material each time, but the students create a new version of it in their commentary each time. So you can read their blog posts there. And then Mary Mariology is I've only taught this one twice. I tend not to teach my own material because I find it hard to actually teach my own books. This one I taught before Mary and the Art of Prayer was published, and I got some absolutely gorgeous art projects from the students out of that one, as well as these blog posts. So these are the bottom 3. You can see some of my teaching on campus. The middle ones are what I've done here and an unauthorized, and the top ones are me and reading list. But you want to go behind the scenes now, don't you? See, but here we go. I actually, okay, now it's frozen. I just need to refresh it. Oh no, it did go behind the scenes. Okay, there we go. It's sometimes they take a little while to load. Wix is a stubborn platform. Okay, so writing and illustrating Draco Alchemicus. How do we do it? I put up the Courting the Dragon episode where we beg for money. You better give us money because, well,
we want your money.
Want your money. We're here gold digging. Learn to scan.
Yeah.
You need to learn to scan.
If only I could learn to hyphenate.
Hey, you learned to scan. You could not do any big pentameter when I first found you. You were a wild woman.
No.
You were a pigeon without a dove.
I was wilding. I was a whiling. I was homeless.
You were a homeless pigeon. Didn't even have feet.
Probably not. I mean, it's been a while since we had anywhere to go. Yeah, we have to learn to scan. So I'll give the short version of what I was trying to explain to this friend of mine, Coptic friend. She asked me when she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Wow, how do I even summarize this?" We're rehabilitating the English language. She said, "Oh, okay." She's kind of looking nervously. I said, "We have absolutely no liturgical language as English speakers. It's gone, and everything has been commercialized to the point where the advertising has been advertising and the corporate etiquette has been integrated into our speech. It's degraded, it's disintegrated from liturgical life and from worship, from religion, from faith. So we are not expressing ourselves as humans through this language in the way that you would be speaking Coptic." She said, "Okay, now I understand it." I said, "So everybody that's coming here is learning English. They're learning English through written formats, but everything essentially is for vocational training. The language is just for trade. It's a trade language."
Right.
but it's the trade is not being influenced by faith. They've been divorced. So we're technologically incredibly advanced, and yet linguistically and spiritually kind of anorexic. So she laughed and she said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And then she told me what she did for a living. She works for some kind of military contractor doing something that she can't talk about. So I thought that was really funny.
She does
too,
the
you know,
explosive guano part.
Exactly. She's in Kaboom. We're in growth. We want the fertility of the culture, and this is what we're doing. So scanning essentially is learning how to feel the rhythm of the language and articulate meaning from what we're saying and what we're writing, and that goes deeper than just the etymology of a particular word. It's back to what we're doing with the website, trying to integrate racial scholarship with the art and everything. The medieval world integrated everything. Everything was everything else. This is like internet thinking. It's very natural for our people now when we have the internet, because we're suddenly doing this already. And oh, that's so weird. Your face just got really pixelated as I was saying this. You just put translated into pixels.
I'm not seeing it.
Wow.
Rebear Steel says thanks for the stream. Thank you.
Is she pixelated, guys?
That's weird.
Can you see this, or is it just coming through on Skype?
I don't know. I mean, right now all I can see on my screen is the window for showing you the website.
Your face was in pixels. It was fully pixelated. Okay, so
in any case, this kind of thing happens all the time while we're writing.
Oh man, every time. So
it's the Nevis effect.
Learning to scan. It's the Nevis effect. Learning to scan is learning to see the pixels of your language. It's working with the pixels of your language. See? There it just happened. Pigeon world. So we're dealing with guano, and at the moment, no one's paying attention to the pixels. The alignment is out. Everyone is completely out of alignment, disintegrated, chaotic, and so that's why you need to learn to scan. Poetry is the only way of dealing with the design of your tongue, of your mother tongue. And for colonial wretches like myself who have not been grown in the culture of Latin or Greek, well, I mean, I cheated there a little bit, but still we get nothing in terms of the root of Western thought in the colonies. We don't even know what pixels are, so that's what we're doing. Hopefully that
so we've got a lot of good anchors here, and this is, so we say this is the way the poetry is working. It's like you create stories which give you anchors, and think of just all of we've created. This is one we're behind the scenes now. We're showing you our process. We were always showing you our process, but we didn't realize that that's what we were doing. That we're finding the metaphors and the images that anchor us in the story, and that we can see my little the use of the website to do little tile things is like a home space for each of those. And I like the idea of the pixels, the scanning, learning to scan is aligning our language so that you can see beauty. That's amazing.
That's the mosaic.
It's the mosaic
of the mother tongue. So I mean, we're that's what we're doing.
So Casey says the internet pixies are pixelating Rachel.
It looks so weird, guys. Like, I can't believe it. If you couldn't see this, so the internet is a freaky thing.
Okay, well, Casey says English itself is a pixelated language, having been cobbled together from 5 or 6. Yes, English is itself a mosaic. I have a book that I want to read one day on different English words, that is like a history of English through various words, and it's like I keep meaning to bring that to us, because they say, how do we talk in this language that is itself the pixelated mosaic? That's a great image. That's really cool. Okay, so here we have on this site in the little dove cut cubbies, um, Drake's a Symbol is the page on the blog where I put all of the. I have pages on Fancy Barrett Prayer that are basically table of contents of posts that are under that theme. But after I stopped writing about Milo and I gave up. I was like, I'm not fighting old battles now, right? I wrote about Milo until 2020. I wrote about my adventures in academia and the sort of battles that I had there for a while. I did the logo, Lady in the Logos. Those pages have links on them, but since then I've become more integrated, and everything's going into Dragon Common Room. And this Drake's a Symbol link is to that page, and if you go there, you get backstory of where we came from as a Dragon Common Room, and also various posts that are practice stanzas. Casey and Mel, and we did a whole set on Milo Electric, right? Remember those? Those were fun. So we've posted some of our occasional practice poems, some of my more recent meditations on Empire and Sugar and things like that. And I'm happy to say, yes, that I've become, and I just had a thought then that I will share with you in a second, that I've become more integrated here. The thought I just had is this is totally like Doris Lessing's Golden Notebook, which was one of my favorite books when I read it. I don't know whether I'd like it now because I'm not sure whether, but the character in that is keeping all these different notebooks because they're all different parts of her like life story, when she's a Marxist, when she's this, when she's that. And the Golden Notebook is the one that finally integrates herself. So the Dragon Common Room has become my Golden Notebook, which is a kind of, I'll cry now, like a weepy feel of the integration of all of these threads and stories. And on the blog, that's most of our work has been in Mosaic Arc and in the poem this last year. So there are not so many new posts, but it's all there, right? So for the history's sake. And then Take the Drake Pill is a link to another reading list. It's the what to read list on the blog, which has been transformed and, presented in other fashions. Milo drew on it for some of his suggested reading and such. For me, it's a funny list because it was things I found useful at the time. And people will say, well, why do you have Jonah Goldberg there on the list? It's like, well, it was part of the journey, right? You never know which books are going to be the thing that point you in the right direction, and maybe at the time that was the best book you had, and then you keep traveling, right? There's no one magic book, the Bible. Even reading the Bible is a recurrence, right? It's you come back to it, you come back to it, you come back to it. So Take the Drake Pill is me pilled on a lot of different topics: Christianity, American history, econ, politics, writing, things like that. And then Tea Time is, I think that's a specific post to talk about why iambic pentameter. And we as a team now, we're not writing publicly so much right now because it's actually gotten pretty intense and we need to concentrate and not be answering questions from people who are new to this situation. It's like, no, it takes intense concentration every weekday for an hour to make the magic happen. And in that sense, what I did was set up the practice in the monastic style that I suggest to my students of how do you get over writer's block? You do a little bit every day in regular sessions. And so our Tea Time is our regular session of practice together. And that's where it all comes from. If you want to say, how do you do it? We meet regularly and keep to discipline. So it's that our monastic practice. So
it works.
It does work. You find Nebi, the plural of Nebus is.
Don't make me do Latin plurals, please.
Nebus. So Draco Draconis, the plural Dracones, because it's a third declension. And Draconibus is therefore the ablative or dative plural. But Nebus by itself could be second declension or could be fourth declension. It sounds like a fourth declension, so its plural will be Nebus. There you go. Okay, Nebus. So would you like to see how we do it through one set of pictures, which I put here. Zay gave us permission to show some of his draft stuff because he's great and he's brilliant. And when Kiltz was talking about the way we work with him, we'll just like force him into monastic retirement if we praise him as much as we want to.
He's terrible. I don't want him to go to the monastery, so just say like he's awful.
Shh, it's a secret. It's a secret. Anyway, we've talked through his two of the Gerasene Demoniac and his Gethsemane meditation, the John Henry Newman. But this is showing you the process. We can show you it. It happens in the same way in our poetry writing, that the images come to us and the structure happens. But obviously, we want to illustrate the poem because certain things can happen visually that can't happen verbally, and vice versa. And what happened in the course of figuring out how to illustrate this part of the scene is a great demonstration of this dynamic. And for me is another demonstration of why monastic training it matters so much. This kind of integration of image with text is, the most beautiful manuscripts that we have from the Middle Ages, the early Middle Ages, obviously, are monastic, and they're thinking in this diagrammatic way about knowledge and spiritual truth, and it just Zay is somehow able to tap into that with us, and it's magnificent. So we will go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I think this is the thing when people doing illustrated books, and then they give it to the illustrator afterwards. The illustrator is kind of operating like a hermit. They're not really involved in the writing process. They're kind of out on the side in the wilderness doing their own thing, and then you green light the illustrations, yes or no, blah, 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 blah. But this is completely different. We're singing every day together, and he's a part of the chorus. It's mind blowing how he can translate what we're doing, the pixels of the language and the storytelling, and suddenly boom, there's this beautiful image. It's fantastic.
But I think some of it is we're not very practiced. When we had Hand Drum Bear just giving us pictures, and we were like, oh my god, this is amazing. I mean, that she actually wrote stanzas with us too, and she's gone on to write some of her own poems. Her donkey books, right, are beautiful and magnificent. If you have little kids, you must get her donkey books, because they are absolutely exquisite theologically and visually. But she made it easy for us because she understood things that we weren't even asking, whereas Zay he is practiced with other writers, but he wants to make sure he's doing what we want. And so he'll show us something and say, is this what you said? And we're like, oh no, and we didn't think that through. This needs more detail. And this series of sketches and drawings is an example of that process for us, and also how the symbolism is emerging from the interaction of, we need the drawing, we need the meaning. Is this going to evoke it for us? Oh yes, I need that. Okay, so in this scene, and hopefully this will work. There we go. Okay, so this is his storyboard for Act 1, the casino. I think it's scene 2, or anyway, it's the first major encounter with the characters after our little opening mystical situation, that we're now in the casino, and there's a couple at a table placing bets on the horse races, and you can see in the storyboard the 7 pictures that are going to be part of the illustration, and he's just sketched them out so we can say, okay, are these the structures of the scenes that you need? Okay. And then we have the focus on the sketch of the want to bet, right? And it's they're newlyweds. It's a couple of the newlyweds, and the husband is thinking in one fashion, as it were, and the wife is thinking another. And the husband is thinking sort of, we said, in like statistics and equations. He's thinking mathematically. He's going to study the race sheets and say exactly, make judgments on the basis of the numbers, right? Whereas she is, of course, going to come along and say, woo, woo, woo. You know, I like the color of the jockey's silks, and this one's name suggests something to me. She's thinking very poetically, right? So
Yes.
the twinning is the arts, right? It's the mathematical arts and the poetic arts, the verbal arts, and the two of them are.
Mm.
I mean, ideally they should work together, which, because this is a story, maybe or may or may not work. At this point, they're actually working together. So he's thinking mathematically and she's thinking verbally. And now Zay he's building the sketch up, and he's got the characters. We give him source material to say we want the characters to look basically like this. The source material for this was a picture of Elizabeth Taylor and her second husband. I don't remember, right?
I love how we have to think about that.
I don't know. It's not Richard Burton. It's one of the it's one of her earlier ones. So I don't remember his name. Casey probably does if she's still commenting. Anyway, so he's filling it in. They're becoming characters now, but we still don't know exactly how they're thinking of the problem, right? And then he's starting to put the colors in, and I remember when he showed this one to me, and he says, okay, notes, and he's got sort of mathematical equation-y thingies above his head, and she's got squiggles, and I'm like, no, that's not specific enough for my monastic sense of symbolism. We need to go in deeper here. Notes and squiggles are not going to be enough. We need him thinking a particular equation and her thinking in some kind of very specific,
profound
symbol,
cosmic way.
Yeah, profound cosmic way. And then I honestly don't remember how we got. Oh well, actually, some of it is the images have to refer to other parts of the symbol system in the story, and one of the things that we have is the system of the planets, because it's in the roof of a fountain that we put at the beginning of the story, which is the sort of ornamental fountain that they go into the casino, and it's like representing the world. So I think we put the planets at the top just because it was like the sky, right? And then there's the earth, and
it was like an aesthetic choice in the beginning.
We were like, we need planets
Zodiac
up there, right?
It'll be nice.
and that has been the feature. It's sometimes the deep super duper symbolism stuff comes simply because we said, yeah, that's right. And then later we're like, no, that's really right. That's the exact right thing. Oh my gosh, that has like layers that we never actually intended, but clearly we did, but we didn't. The joy of the writing process is finding how these things come together. The mosaic is building itself. Yeah. So, okay. So the notes and squiggles, he's thinking in note, and I said, no. He needs a specific equation, and she needs to be thinking something specifically astrological, right? Because she's doing, and of course, therefore, we have the planetary configuration for March 18th, AD 816. From the manuscript in Leiden Universitäts Bibliothek Manuscript Voss Latin Q79 Folio 93V, drawn between AD 830 and 840, showing, according to Bede in his De Temporis Rationibus, the anniversary of the creation. Got all that? This is what's like living inside my head. And if I say that suddenly suggests to me this whole cascade of references, don't start calling me names and assume that you can reduce me to some kind of stupid little stereotype. Please. I wonder who I'm referring to there. I'm not going to talk about
it. We won't mention the war.
Right? Okay, so she needs to be thinking astrologically. I know this image. There's a book over there that I'm going to reach for because then I'll spill my wine. From Christopher de Hamel's marvelous book on meeting with remarkable manuscripts, where he's talking about this Carolingian manuscript, which is a copy of a late Roman manuscript, which is the Constellations. But this image is drawn specifically in the 9th century to go with this planetary, this astrological book. It's redrawn later in the 17th century in the same book that we took the picture from to be in the top of the fountain, and is used by Grotius, I can't remember. But what's fascinating about it is like the planets are so precisely situated in a geocentric design with the zodiac that more recent scholars have figured out what date it's supposed to be. And according to Bede and his calculation of the reason of time, it should be the day, the configuration of the planets on the day of creation. So we said, absolutely, that has to be what she's thinking when she's figuring out how to her astrological form. But we needed it to be a little bit more diagrammatic, and I found out there on the internet, because the internet has everything once you know how to search, a schema of it, and I drew it out for Zay, saying these are the symbols, right? And he took that and rendered this image. This is the complete image of the couple. Now, Nikki Hilton is the husband that we're modeling it. Now, class, I have shown this to students on campus, and if you are properly educated, you'll know what the man is thinking.
Oh, don't ask me.
We've got people watching on unauthorized. Anybody? Class? Bueller, right? Well, if she's thinking in terms of this planetary sigil that, according to Bede, would be the configuration of the planets in the zodiac on the day of creation, he, of course, thinking in mathematical terms, has to be thinking Kepler's third law of planetary motion. See how easy that was? So he's
measurement,
but he's actually he's got the equation form that she's thinking, which is the movement of the planets. Although she's still thinking in a Ptolemaic universe. I think, did Kepler have the heliocentric universe or not? Is that Copernicus? I don't remember. Anyway, that how we're describing the meaning of these movements, right? And so he's thinking in Kepler's third law, and she's thinking in terms of this ancient symbolic reference, which should be scientifically pointing to the day of creation, which is symbolically meaningful because of time. Science versus mysticism, but mysticism is science, and science is mystical, right? So it's still, at this point, they're still in harmony, and the dichotomy is to try to show the tension, but also the joy, right? She's delighted that she's seen the sigil. Okay, so I then look at that sigil, and I'm going, this is our design now. It's like anticipates the entire scope of what we're trying to show in our story, which is, as we say now on our webpage, the subcreating archaism of the electric mosaic in time and design and music and beauty. So the sigil emerges, right? But of course we have this dragon guy, this dragon character, who's going to seduce people and corrupt them, and therefore Kiltz drew this one. Because we're
Are you showing them the one on the sandwich bag?
This is also part of our process, right? And it's like saying, okay, now Zay, we need you to draw something that shows Eliza and the dragon tempting people into this planetary system, and therefore Kiltz drew it on a napkin.
Yeah, I was making a sandwich, as I do. I make a lot of sandwiches. So I thought,
according to the sandwich press, this is your medium. Yes.
Yep. There's the kernel of it.
But there's
so
Eliza
funny.
has several distinctive features. One of which is her bosom.
Oh yeah.
Which I was trying to show to one of my neighbors who's a little younger than maybe I should have been showing these pictures to, and I'm like, oh no, this is not for children. Do not buy this book for your children. Buy Aurora Borealis really for your children. And this one takes us to sin at a different level. The Aurora Borealis is just bullies. Right?
Yeah.
This is the actual temptation into, well, and then, okay, so Zay understands, he keeps drawing these things, and we say, okay, we need it to be, look, this is looking into the beam now, and this is his first sketch of the dragon. And again, he comes up with this stuff. We say, yeah, they have to go into the spiral, and so he's like, shoo, whoosh, right? So here she is tempting you into into the internet of the dragon, and the dragon swirling around it, right? And it's like, okay, so, and this is he's Draco Alchemicus. He's the dragon of addiction, which is the addiction of all of our attentions, the internet and drugs, and it's all about spices. It's Dune with dragons. Okay, so the first thing that Zay does is, of course, make it green. She said, no, that's because we don't want you to know that you're in a horror story yet. We want you to still think that the dragon is very beautiful. So he is blue, right? And this is showing you the enormous and gorgeous versatility of Zay's drawings, and also what it takes to figure out what it is we're talking about, right? That there's a symbol level here in the colors and the design and the structure of the images, and that this is what we need your help on for the Kickstarter, which it's just to fund the art, right? Because we've written the poem, that's our practice and our meditation and our prayer. But Zay is doing, he's a fully professional comic artist, and we as Christians feel that we should reimburse him appropriately for his practice. So please help us with our Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Casey says, Zay, you are a genius. Yes, we're going to keep saying this is the stream where we talked about how cool the work is that we're doing.
Yeah. He took a sandwich bag doodle with a ballpoint pen and turned it into something multi-dimensional. I mean, it's so wonderful to be a part of just observing it. But I mean, we're in conversation with him, you know. I mean, but we need him to keep making these drawings because it's a conversation. It's a back and forth.
Right.
He will produce something, then we can figure out what we're trying to say, like with the sandwich picture. But it's with everything, you know. We're tweaking colors. We're doing different designs for different kinds of psychedelic experiences that the characters are having while they're in the casino, and you know, looking at the costumes that they're wearing. I mean, we've kind of turned this into a full production of world building, like we were going to create a film in many ways. You know, this, like, we have style choices, we have period choices. Rachel's understanding of manuscript and understanding of the symbology, you know, medieval symbolism, is so important to what's happening, because we wouldn't have all of these resources if we were just clicking around looking for different symbols, you know. So we've got Zay working as an artist while we're digging around for design archaeology, you know, to give him all of this kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's not going to look just like a reproduction of something that's already been done. We're remixing everything, transforming everything. The entire process of Draco Alchemicus is alchemical. Everything we're doing is alchemical. So we really do need money to give to him.
Transform your money into our art. And so, no, Kels, what you're saying is like, yes, I chose this image to be the sigil because of its significance. It's sigil. It's meaningful on the multiple layers that, when I said, you know, we showed you my books, right? When I wrote the book that Anne Rice used, I'm talking about the way monastic commentators use the Song of Songs, which is a love poem, which is also obviously going to inform our Draco Alchemicus, right? It's a love song. I'm talking about the way medieval commentators used it as a history to talk about the soul, to talk about the beauty of heaven, to talk about the music of creation, all of these things. And Tolkien thought in all of these layers. That's what I do in my classes with the students. We're talking about rocks and trees and monsters and you know, well, birds is what we're talking about in Draco Alchemicus. That learning to think like a medieval Christian means thinking in the sort of glorious harmony of all of the creatures in praise of God, which is why, if you're wondering, we're Dragon Common Room, because the dragons sing to God too. The dragons sing in praise of the Creator. Praise the Lord, all ye creatures, all ye dragons. I forgot what it is. I can't, now I'm nervous and I can't remember. It's all the dragons are singing from the deep, and that praise ye the Lord, all ye dragons and ye deeps. Psalm 148:7. That's why we're Dragon Common Room, because we are singing in praise of our Creator.
Yes. Together, not in isolation.
Right, as a chorus, and with the art and the music.
Yeah.
And so Kiltz wrote the music that we play in our streams, the opening and closing. So I get to brag about her. And if you go to our Kickstarter, actually, I'm hoping I can play with the Kickstarter here. Let me see. I can change. The Kickstarter will be live the 22nd, we hope. But we can show you a preview. Which you will recognize now, that very same image that we just talked you through to say where that Sigil and Eliza came from. The musician for this video was Moira Grayland, who those of you on Unauthorized will know is the author of The Last Closet. We are very grateful to her for her beautiful work in our trailer. I could listen to that over and over again. It's so beautiful. So, you guys persuaded yet? maybe they need a little more tempting, right? Because that's what Eliza does. She tempts that poor couple into. It's like, I should go back to the forthcoming. Here we go.
She uses all of her assets.
She definitely does. She's got assets here. Eliza has got assets. But we, however, have in our Kickstarter, which will launch on May 22nd, we hope, it's some very cool reward tiers. The books, obviously, in digital or hardback. At a next level, a print. I think particularly we're definitely going to have a print of the couple with the calculations in the sigil, because it's just so iconic. Well, actually, all of the images that Zay does are iconic, but yeah. That one is iconic of the dynamic that we are trying to show. Then at top levels, we have things like talking with Zay and casting yourself into one of our crowd scenes, although there are not that very many of them, so those are actually pretty exclusive and special donor portraits and pretty high level tiers. If you pay us the most money, you'll get to be in all 5 books. At a kind of mid-level tier, because we will accept 2 people for one of these episodes, but since Kilt and I only really like talking to each other and you guys listen. However, those who would like to come on the Mosaic Ark and explore themes with us may help support the artwork and such. However, we recognize that maybe those tiers are going to be out of most people's reach. So we have a middle range of tiers where you get decks of cards. And of course, because we are a full, full service, full monastery, layers of art, Zay has drawn face cards for this deck of cards. I'm showing here on the website the Dramatis Personae of Damian Stone, our main character, and Eliza and her various. It's kind of a time travel story, so they have to change costumes in the different acts. The Casino act is in the more modern period, and then Act 2, which we're working on now, thus the Nibi, is in an Elizabethan setting. So we go back in time. So we have Damian and Eliza, and then our guardian angel, who has roles and purposes that we have yet to discover, and our dove, which you'll recognize. We are big into pigeons here. And these cards will be in 2 different decks, and because we have timed everything perfectly, oh no, we haven't, because all of it's coming together without me actually controlling it. I have here in my hands the proofs. Can you see them?
Yay!
Yes. They're absolutely, so it's poker sized cards, because we figure they're in a casino, right? And you can see them. We designed our own pips, because you will know from episode, I think it was 13 of the Mosaic Ark, I do tarot readings. At least I know how to do them. And we recognize that if we were going to do a symbolically significant deck, let me see which pip, the pips themselves should be symbolic of our different acts. So wait, I should just do it this way. No, it needs a lot of sheets of proofs to do it. So here we have. Okay, so the Elizabethan period, the pip sign is a dagger, right? Because those are spades, and spades are air signs, so that's the dagger sign. And you can see, I'm not sure whether I'm holding it to the camera because
It's a bit fuzzy. It looks fuzzy from.
Well, it's going to be fun. You can't see them completely if you don't. These are only exclusively available through the Kickstarter reward tiers, right?
You know what you're doing?
What?
You're pip teasing.
I'm pip teasing.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
We have the you can't see them, but you will see them if you support our Kickstarter at the right levels. The daggers, we designed a special rose for the hearts. That's the okay, I've got these out of order. Well, okay, it's a full deck, all right? The hearts are Commedia dell'arte characters. They're going to show up in Act 4. The steampunk characters, those show up in Act 3. So we have this all planned out, even if we're still hoping for inspiration at various levels. And then the vine ones, those are the ones that are in the first act, right? The characters of the modern casino. And because we know that you guys expect full symbolic referentiality throughout all of our stories, the backs are different. I think actually you have to. We will leave it to you to explore the website sufficiently to find the pictures these go with. The backs are either the Brazen Serpent, whom you will know from the trailer that I just showed you, or the Alchemical Dragon. See? It's really exciting having these in proof. I wonder how cool they're going to be in cards, and they'll have their proper sigil embossed boxes and everything, and you get those at the very generous reward tiers that you will help us most on.
Mhm. Yeah. It's the high rollers that'll be gambling with those
Yes,
cards.
yes. And I'm sure we can do magic. I'm sure they're good for doing magic tricks and all sorts of manipulations. And of course, I think so. The reason we did double decks is they are poker sized, but they're kind of they're kind of hybrid cards because the boxes are going to be more like bridge decks, although they're poker sized. That my grandmother always had these double decks of bridge cards because they I guess they're bridge games that you need 2 decks for. I don't know. But the reason I wanted 2 decks is my favorite card game of all time is it's called Rummy Fun or Rummy Cub. It was a tile game that one of my friends from school and I played a lot, which is rummy, but you lay down as you get sets, you lay them down on the table in front of you, and the gameplay is once you've laid down a certain opening hand, you can rearrange and add to, and it's a very dynamic set game, which is clearly my life. of showing you all of the different ways all of the sets can come together and recombine and yes. Oh, Rebear says no music, no sound. Oh, they couldn't hear the music. Okay, well you saw
no.
the trailer.
You'll have to go to the website.
You'll have to go. I will show you. Okay, look, I will show you where on the website it is. So those of you who have watched tonight can hear it. Go to the home. I wonder if I play it now, will it play? Let's see.
I can't hear it anyway.
She can't hear it anyway.
I'm playing green screen games while you're all getting.
I know, isn't she good that she can figure out? If you touch on the dove, you'll get the music. Mel could. Okay, so clearly you guys couldn't hear either my beautiful reading or Moira's music. Casey was saying Moira rocks, so I thought you could hear it. Work in progress. Anyway, the trailer is I could try. Everybody hanging out here, you want to try for the sound now? I think maybe I needed to set up something different in the refresh. My OBS does not extend to figuring out how to play the sound off these videos. I think it's because I don't have sound set up in the video. Oh well, you'll have to click on the dove and you'll get the full experience.
Yeah. Which is pretty much the medieval way.
Click on the dove and you'll get the full experience. You want the full
experience, you gotta enter Pigeon World.
This is see how meta everything gets whenever we do anything. If you want the full experience, you have to go to the website, click on the dove, and join us in Pigeon World.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's our demonstration. Shall we show them? Oh no! So now that I know I can't make the music work, I won't do some certain things. But there are more pages on the website. We'll click through them. There's the About Us, which praise the Lord on the earth, ye dragons and all ye deeps. Hand drum bearer special to show us, and her there is a bear. Writing our poems, and there's descriptions of each of our team members and other work that we do, links to our various activities. I've embedded in a variety of places because it's all about me. Me reading a lecture I did at St. John Cantius on storytelling, and a little interview I did with the University of Chicago about my teaching and my work as a historian. Right. Okay. And what Kilt was saying is I've got these all linked down at the bottom now so that you don't have to go all the way back at the top. The Mosaic Arc page takes you to the full episode guide. This is where all of these go once we finish recording.
If her Wikipedia page is like a Diet Coke, this is like a full wine cellar of her actual magnificent career. So yeah,
come visit the webpage.
Go get the wine.
This is the full fat version. Okay, story time is mainly about Aurora Borealis, and has videos there. Me reading Act 1 for the kids. Hand Drawn Bear did some lovely videos on her artwork and her process, how to draw Ulfie and his gang. So bears, draw bears. And the Sky Clock. See, that's if I now that I know this doesn't actually make music, you should go and click on Sky Clock and hear more of Kiltz's music and watch us put the puzzle together. That was me and one of my brother. We've shown you the study guides, coloring pages too. We have coloring pages for Aurora Borealis. If you click on these, you get the PDF that you can then print out and go through all the symbols with the bears. And shop. Buy our books. There we go. Aurora Borealis and Centrism Games, which we haven't really talked about. There's posts on the blog about the Dunciad 2020, which was the backstory for what we were doing in Centrism Games. I also did a post last summer right after Dodds v. Jackson was decided, because the episode that I wrote for Centrism Games is specifically about a woman who performs that satanic ritual, having had an abortion. Kiltz's episode is not to be missed. The Rainbow Boys. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. And then we have a special page of merch, which is my realize, as Kiltz was saying, when we do things in Dragon Common Room, we integrate everything, right? So we're not just, we may actually put the sigil on a shirt because it's cool and it would work well on a shirt. But when I was thinking about these merch options, which are more just for, it's like the pigeon, right? We've shown you the pigeon before, the light-held pigeon of the paperweight, right? This is a pigeon of light, right? It's a glass, I guess, semisphere with our pigeon light in it. Well, I made some posters. These posters are stand-ups, more like boxes, and they print very nicely. I use them at BaseCon. Here's you can get the pigeon paperweight, and then the puzzle, right? You want this puzzle. It's a full poster-sized color puzzle of the finale scene in Aurora Borealis, and if you click on Sky Clock, you can watch the revelation. And then, of course, because we're McLuhanites here, the electric light is pure information, and the city in which Draco Alchemicus takes place is a city of lights. Therefore, there's a lamp. See what I did there? It always works. It always works. Okay, and then we do have a contact page. If you'd like to email us, do so at books@dragoncommonroom.com, and our various social media platforms. Some of them are more active than others, but we promise to get more active on all of them.
Yeah, we will. We will. There'll be some things coming out on Gab soon. So please, if you're on Gab, follow Dragon Common Room on Gab. If you're not on Gab, you should already be on Gab.
Especially because Kiltz is already, here we go, Deep Magic from the Dawn of Empire, which we talked about last summer, but is published on Gab, the vending machine people. So we are...
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And we also, the professor and I co-authored an article about... what were we writing about again? Aurora Borealis.
Yes, that one's on...
we did.
That one I put on Storytime. So...
Yeah. But that went up on Gab too. So, if you're not on Gab, get on Gab, and then follow Dragon Common Room on Gab, because pretty soon there's going to be a bunch of stuff on Gab regarding the project, right. And then updates to the Kickstarter and anything else that you need. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Yeah, we're everywhere.
The Mosaic Ark knows no. Well, so that we sail around in our ark and hope the dove lands on something. and that you can hear her when she talks. That's I'm sorry, everybody listening right now who couldn't hear the trailer, but I'll take you back. Go to the front page and look for "Are You Ready to Fly into the Rainbow with the Pigeons and Rave?" And you will hear Moira's music, and my reading of these stanzas that are on the front page, which is the blurb version of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot to play with. We really are. We're building a multimedia mosaic, and it's just going to keep building and building and building and building and cross-referencing and reintegrating with itself. Yeah. So the part of the project is becoming self-referential and having a proficiency in symbolic thinking, and joining that way of seeing the world, also that way of hearing the world, because everything is integrated, and being able to join into the draconic intra-referential experience of the medieval Christian world. Yeah.
We got to come up with a slogan.
We really do. That'll be the next task.
Yeah, we're working on our branding here, right? Our heraldry.
Yeah.
We've got our sigil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we do have. I mean, it's like once you're here, you're already in it, right? But we do have the phrase that we use at the end of each video that Mel does when she does the clips for us, so that you have a taster of what we are here. I'm pretty sure she puts it on all the videos. We should join the stream.
Join the stream.
Join the stream.
Yeah.
Well, we can stop now.
Yeah.
Okay. Join the stream. Thank you for joining us. Please support our Kickstarter so that we can continue to make beautiful art in the medieval monastic integrative mosaic of the Dragon Common Room. Good night.